I'm nervous.
Hush.
I don't think there's a nervous bone in that man's body.
No,
I
he
think
can
I was
shoot off
born
the hip.
without that.
It's not fair.
It is not fair. Are y'all's allergies bothering you?
No.
No, mine did about 2 weeks ago.
So did you
I was-
make a decree
like
or
I
an
started
executive
with
order
mine.
in Rainbow City that the allergies
They have to go away.
That's
Go
why we
away.
got all this rain.
Yeah, we had a
Oh.
certain period of time.
could you? Well, until it's some Ben, Joey Statham's not doing his job. You need to do something.
He's focused on another race.
Welcome to the Mayor Joe Taylor Show. Jeff Underwood, this guy is Jerry White. What's up, buddy?
You know, anytime we can have Mayor Joe Taylor in, it's a great day, right?
Got to be.
Well, that's every 2 weeks.
But
so
when
we have
he
one great
brings,
day.
But when he brings in the caliber of person, I'm talking prestige, power, sophistication, and class.
Yes.
That is Miss Beth Lee.
Correct.
Woo! It's going to be a banner day.
Thank
A
you.
banner day. Welcome, Miss
you.
Beth Lee.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
This
He
is
never
the one
says that about me.
because I know you.
He did once. He did once. That was the very first show, and it was
No.
over with at that point.
So funny. Hey, Joe, why don't you introduce your guest?
Well, I'd love to. This is Beth Lee. She's our city clerk. She also wears 2 or 3 other hats. She's our human resource director. She's over our insurance department as well, and she does what I think a lot of people don't understand. In a municipality, there you always have the elected officials, and that's the mayor and the city council. But you also have this one person that's totally set aside, that's segregated from all of the elected official duties, and it's your city clerk. And your city clerk's there to bring about integrity to the system, as well as bring about a wealth of knowledge for the elected officials. You know, we get hired basically in a prom queen contest. Whoever's got the prettiest dress when they run, they win, and they go into the office. And that doesn't mean that we're necessarily smart people. Doesn't mean that we're necessarily very well read in. And that's just being fair. Some are a little smarter than others, and some are just, they're just popular. But what Beth's office does is it brings this level of understanding of the system, and also it brings about the one thing that we have to absolutely adhere to, and that's transparency and integrity in what we do. And that's through a legal system that she maintains. She's the person that keeps the official record of the city. So all of the minutes and all of the different things that come out of meetings, she makes sure that when she's there with us when we meet. Her or a representative of her office is always there to make sure that we adhere to the Open Meetings Act and that the door's open, and she's very funny about that. You do not close the door, even though we have a rogue vacuum cleaner in our building.
Heard about that.
That comes on every time.
That's awesome.
I
At
sat down.
3:30.
Yes, at 3:30.
That's
But
funny.
no, that's what Beth does, and I'll leave it up to her to kind of explain what she does. She's here today especially because we're about to enter into a municipal election. It's and we believe in absolute opportunity for anyone that decides that they want to take on being an elected official, and we really want to make sure that you've got the correct information.
Heck yeah.
And Beth's the person that disseminates that on behalf of the Secretary of State.
Awesome.
So she's really segregated from us, and is kind of like an island unto herself, and she's the person that gets to tell me no.
Yes.
And and that's
That's a good feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, she does like that.
So welcome, Miss Beth. Awesome, man.
My favorite thing is when I'm watching your city council meetings and you kind of do this to
Yes.
Joe and say something
my
to
favorite.
him. It's great. I love it.
Yes.
I tried that once and he knocked me in the floor. I don't know what I was doing.
He's lucky I don't stab him in the leg.
Yeah. There has been times when she'll like
Yeah.
poke me like, okay, you need
Yeah.
you need to
That's why we need to cover their city council meetings.
Yeah. Oh, I
If we
agree.
do it,
And we could be
could
walking
hand her the
around.
knife,
That's
or right. We could
Poor
kind of
Jameson Jenkins' leg. He
Yeah.
gets
Oh,
it a lot.
Yeah,
Bless
she,
his
she'll
heart.
poke Jameson, based
that
on
little
what's
skinny
going
leg
on.
of his.
So, got a comment. Jerry Ramsey says, "You have my hero on the show today." Oh, and Joe's there too.
Oh,
Nice
Wow.
way to go, Jerry.
wow.
Thank you, Jerry.
Shouldn't you be working?
Yeah, no kidding.
He's multitasking.
Text Jeff
multitasking.
Colgrove. Text Colgrove.
He's got all these different screens up. He's
Yeah.
fine. He's fine. So let me ask this: Did you ever think you would be doing what you're doing? Was that your career goal? Is this what you wanted to be when you were a little girl?
Tell
The
them the
first
truth.
thing, no, the first question I always get is, what does a city clerk do?
Sure.
And you have to explain that. Nobody thinks of what we do. We're the hub of the city, to be honest with you. But no, I went to college at the University of Alabama, and I majored in transportation. That was my thing. And then I went to work at Goodyear warehouse. So I was in the field somewhat with
Sure.
that transportation degree, but I was also in customer service there. And at that point, that's where I met Terry John Calhoun. He worked in the bargaining unit, which he was on a forklift most of the time, in the shipping, and I was in the front office doing customer service. So we worked together for about 11 years. And then at that point, he said, I think I'm going to run for mayor. And he said, would you be my secretary? And I said, well, we'll see. So the warehouse was going to be closing. It was going to be third-partied in McDonough, Georgia. So we knew that the end was coming, and the timing was just perfect. And sure enough, he won the election in 2004, and I became his secretary. I worked as his secretary for 13 and a half years. And Barbara Wester was our city clerk, and she retired in 2018. So I put my name in the hat, and they appointed me.
Wow.
So it's been a great run, and I owe a debt of gratitude to Terry John Calhoun for where I am today.
Yeah, I think we all do.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing about coming into office is there's always a big fruit basket
Yes.
turnover, and I was lucky enough to have been in the military long enough to know don't change anything until you find out it needs changing.
Sure.
And I'm so thankful that people there wasn't an exodus, with a new mayor after a 16-year incumbent. There are people that actually have to say, I think it's time for me to go. And I'm just thankful that we didn't have that, and Beth stayed on. You got to have somebody that knows, what's going to happen when you flip a light switch.
Sure.
And she was that person.
Where's the restroom?
Yeah,
exactly?
I
Right,
just
sure.
sold one like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. It's a new one, and that's the truth.
That's
It's
awesome.
got like a combination on it. It's for the associates, and I was like, "What's in that room?" And Mike Bolton said, "Well, that's a restroom." And I was like,
Of course, he would know.
Really?
what
He
it
would know.
is.
He would know,
might
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, he would know.
Sure. What was the transition like, Miss Lee? Going from logistics, basically to
Well,
logistics.
it's a different
right?
animal, I'll tell you. It doesn't smell like rubber.
Yeah.
So
Praise God.
Right.
So it was a major transition, really, because politics is a funny little game, to be honest with you. And at that time, I was not well received, to be honest with you, because I was the new kid on the block, and it was just a difficult time, very difficult time. And at that time, the Gaston Times had a forum online, which you could post just about anything, and people did, and it was cruel,
Wow.
to be honest with you. And there were times I'd go home crying, to be honest with you. So it was I had to put my big girl panties on and move forward. And anyway, it's been good since that time.
Wow.
I overcame that.
Well, I'm glad you did. I can tell you that.
"Yeah."
As
And in
whole
a very
city.
short amount of time, I'll give her a plug right here that she won't do it for herself. But in that amount of time, Beth has become a subject matter expert for city clerks throughout the state of Alabama, and even in the nation, because even now she serves right now as the president of the City Clerks Association for the state of Alabama, which is not,
huge.
that's no joke. I don't know how many of you guys. There's 465 municipalities, so we know there's got to be pretty close to that in number as far as city clerks, and Beth's over that organization, and she's that person that these new clerks come to get advice on how to run your city, and honestly how to manage your elected official unit. That's 6 people that have to be managed daily, and we take that. We
Some
have
more
to
than
have that.
others.
Yes,
That's a fact.
absolutely.
One's watching right now.
Yeah.
You want to read down some of the questions?
There's a
and-
bunch.
People love you,
Oh,
Miss
Let me
Lee.
start from the bottom.
bunch?
From yes, ma'am. From Trent Thrasher. Nobody knows who this guy is. This is some obscure person.
Yeah.
He said, "Who really runs the city?"
She just gave now. I'll say this: it depends.
They rehearsed this
I mean,
question
it's-
before they
it's-
got
They
here.
did.
It's the standard attorney's answer. You know, when you ask them anything that's specific, they say, "Well, it depends." It really does. It depends. If you're talking about anything that has to do with a request for information, Beth's running it. You know, I can't just divulge information to other people. As far as the person that can see everything in the city, it's Beth. There are certain things that I'm not allowed to see and to view, and for instance of that is the revenue of your business. I can't go in and pick your business out and begin to bring in information so that I can decide if I like your business or not, if we're taxing you enough or not. And so, but Beth has the authority to look at all of those things just to make sure that we're doing things the right way. And so, you know, I guess to who's in charge.
Well, when he goes out of town, he knows everything is okay, and he's a phone call away, a text away. So we do have to reach out. I'm not asking him if he's having a good time. When I text, he better answer me.
How good does that feel, though, as a mayor, to be able to, hey, I can leave town. I can go do the city's bidding, do the job that I need to do, and it's left in good
Well,
hands.
it's unbelievable because, you know, I think when I came into this job, you know, I came from really a one-man show. I did all of my books, I did all my payroll, and then all of a sudden I've got this staff. It's a staff of females mainly, and you know, and I had no idea what that was going to be like, but it's become it's such a pleasure to work at City Hall.
We have a good time.
We have a great time, and it's kind of one of those things that I require a certain amount of fun in the day's work.
It should be.
It really should be, and you know, we look at social media as a totally different animal. You know, I want my employees during the day to wish someone a happy birthday, to when they have downtime. I don't expect them to make busy work. There's plenty of work at that City Hall all the time, and I don't want people to be overburdened with that. But I think that's one of the things that we found out just in the last, 4.5 years, that I do put a lot on the city clerk. And I think it's to the point now that we're having to look at growing that department, and Beth's going to be the person that would lead that growth.
There's a question here, Miss Lee. What's the best thing about working for Rainbow City?
Well,
Someone
it's
asked.
just a pleasure to come to work, honestly. I love our office staff. I love the people I work with. We just support each other. Like you said, we have a good time, and it's a great place to work.
She was
bottom line.
supposed to say me, and she missed that one, but that's okay.
Is that what I
That was a softball question.
It was.
This mayor's from Mayor. This question's from Joe Taylor.
Yeah.
Sure.
See, this is from Heather Hill. Joe thinks he runs things, but it's really Beth that's in charge.
That's the
Heather.
truth. That's the truth.
No.
What a fantastic lady.
Yes.
Rick, you outkicked your covered
Yeah.
son.
Real
Yeah.
bad.
For
We
sure.
We
Yeah.
know that.
Everybody knows
Cindy
that.
Posey, Super Beth.
Yes.
Oh,
That's awesome.
Cindy.
Trent Thrasher kicks one more in. Miss Beth is the best. All right.
Questions?
Yeah.
Hit that question.
All right. Oh, wait. I lost it. It refreshed. More questions came in. Let me get back to it.
Very popular today, Miss Lee.
Yeah, she's very popular.
I know the city council better be happy you're not running.
Oh, I can't run anyway.
Me
Nope.
either.
I don't live in the city.
Oh.
Yeah.
She lives in the
So
city on the
we're in
side
the
of
same
bridge.
boat. So do
Okay,
you
so
look
you
at
don't
her
live
like
in
you
the
look at
city?
me?
Look,
I do.
Okay.
A little bit. A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. I used to live here before you were the mayor, but they still had a great mayor, and I loved Terry John Calhoun. And my mom always used to say, "Hey, he's gonna save a dime."
You better believe
And
it.
she said, he'd walk into the city hall with his brown
Brown
bag.
badge.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
That's
So how does it feel going from a fiscally conservative mayor to a fiscally conservative mayor, but also one that's forward-thinking, very progressive in let's grow this city the right way? How does that
Like
feel?
Mayor Taylor says, he wouldn't be in this position if it weren't for Terry.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
He set the stage for what we can do and are doing now.
That's right.
So again, we owe him a debt of gratitude.
Amen.
No
We
question.
agree with that.
And it's just great things are coming, and it's just awesome to see that change coming.
Yeah, and you couldn't do it. I mean, you hit it. You said it. You've said it for how many years have we been doing the show? Like 1,600 years now.
Yeah.
That he set the stage for me to be able to come in and just.
He did.
From
He
day
left
one.
us where
Yeah.
most mayors don't leave their
Right.
their successor, and that is he left us with money in the bank. Now, there's no doubt about that. That's grown since then. You know, we came in and we were doing a $10, $11 million budget, something like that. We'll exceed $21 million. That's 4.5 years. Now, that growth, and she bears a portion of that burden of that type of growth. Because you've got to be able to, and Heather as well, you have to be able to put a system in place, that all of a sudden, there is a difference between having 10 million and 21 million, and especially with the growth being so fast, and so this staff has freed me up to be able to go and actually have the vision and try to carry that forward for the city. But I think that's because they understand, and they shifted gears immediately when I came in. I am a different type leader. Terry John was a more old school, very formal type of mayor, and I'm not. I do fly by the seat of my pants. I do a lot of my own emailing and things like that, and that's not what Terry John did. That's not anything that interested in him, and so I think it's a totally different way of looking at and doing business, but they're both equally good.
Sure.
He kept us in a conservative position for that amount of time and built the city back up financially so that me and this council could turn around and take off running. And we've been
Agreed.
able to do that. And as a matter of fact, I think we're picking up pace now.
Yeah.
I think we're finally to the
Yeah.
point where we're really able to pick up speed.
How about this question? Can Beth take us through the process if a new candidate wants to run for office? That's a
Sure.
great segue.
Sure. Qualifying begins June the 10th through June the 24th, 2 weeks. The first thing they need to do is come into my office. They'll first fill out a statement of candidacy. So this states that their name, the place that they want to run, and what I do there is I prepare a sheet of paper with the mayor and some blanks. Council place 1 through 5 and blanks, and it's there for everybody to see, so they can pick and choose. Probably most everybody kind of might know where they
Sure.
want to run, but they're certainly welcome to look at that paper and put their name there, fill out this statement of candidacy, and they have to print exactly how they want their name printed on the ballot. They can't have Mr. or Mrs. or Doctor or Miss. They can have a nickname in between their first and last name. But they write this exactly as they want it prepared on the ballot and give that to me. And then they will pay $50 for qualifying. We'll write a receipt for that. And I'll give them a packet showing them our audit, our budget, the duties and mayor and council, and we will then just they have to also within 5 days of qualifying they do have to fill out a statement of economic interest with the State of Ethics Commission. If they don't do that within 5 days, they will not appear on the ballot. So that's it in a nutshell.
I love that.
It's really not
It's
that
not-
hard.
It's a simple process.
It's
And
very simple.
I was waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Well, yeah, and also they do have to be a qualified voter.
Oh,
So
sure.
I do check to make sure they're a qualified voter, that they're 18 years of age, that they reside in Alabama, and also Wes Allen, our Secretary of State, is real big. They have to be a United States citizen.
As it should
Bottom
be.
line. Yes.
And Jameson Jenkins barely made it in under that 18.
I often say, he was 18 in one day.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. We just had to go back and check that.
What a good guy. So, when somebody runs, there are certain qualifications as far as we're going to release our financial information. I think that's a great thing.
It is.
Because you don't want somebody running your municipality that doesn't have financial integrity or that's financially responsible.
And that's
right?
not anything we check. It is strictly up to the Ethics Commission on that. And they reply back, yes, he is, he or she
Right.
are fine to run.
That's good stuff. That's good. We want to read that from David.
Beth is so knowledgeable about the city and all the happenings in the area. She's well versed in what it takes to have a city on the move.
Oh, that's nice.
Did you put, so is it Joe the Man Taylor? Is that how it's going to appear on the ballot?
I think mine was Joe Taylor.
Did you do Joseph or?
I think I did Joe.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I think it should do Joseph.
I think it should just be Joe.
I'm afraid people wouldn't.
Don't even put his last name on
No,
there.
just Joe. Vote Joe.
I'm afraid they wouldn't vote for me.
Vote Joe.
There could be something in a few years that could say the Joe.
Yeah.
I'm excited to broadcast. Oh wait,
me
it's a
too.
different show. It's a different show.
We'll wait on that one.
Different show. That's gonna be a lot of fun.
When I wear Jameson Jenkins, Councilman Jenkins, investigator, Jenkins says, when I wear a tie, it adds 6 months to my age.
That's right. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that early on it was different about our administration. Maybe not intentionally, because I didn't know how the other one ran anyway. I didn't go and go to council meetings or do anything. I never wanted to look like I was trying to upstage our former mayor.
Sure.
He was always very gracious to me, and so the night that we were going to be sworn in, Jameson came in and everybody else had on a coat and tie, and Jameson was walking down the hall, and I just looked at him. I said, buddy, you don't have a tie? And he said, yeah, I got one in the truck. And I said, you need to go put it on. I said, this is worth that. It's worthy of that.
Sure.
And so he goes and puts it on and comes back up, and he walks up and he's proud of that tie.
Uh-huh.
And I said, see, it makes you look 6 months older. And so that kind of started mine and Jameson's relationship of we beat on each other pretty hard, and I'm glad I have the relationship I have with that council. And I think that's the thing that Beth can talk about, is that our council understood right out of the gate what her job was, and I think a lot of that comes from the education that you get then, which was not mandatory. Now it's mandatory through the League of Municipalities, that allows for us to be told this is what you can do and this is what you can't do. There's a lot of misnomers out there that we can just come in and begin to just kind of run the whole show. It's nothing like that. The mayor does have a lot of responsibility,
Sure,
as far as like personnel issues and those kind of things.
Yeah.
But what you find out is some cities run their city with a little bit of leeway of the council being able to have some input on the way the employees do their jobs. That's not right. It's actually, I'm not saying it's illegal, it's just not the way it's supposed to be. The mayor's the executive branch of the city,
Right.
and he's supposed to be the administrator of the employees, so that they've got one place to go, so that they're not answering to 6 elected officials. And our council has just been so good to follow by that rule and allow me to be able to encourage and strengthen our relationship with our employees.
And to add to that, Mayor, from a city clerk standpoint, it's a dream city clerk position to be in, with the mayor and council. And they don't always agree, and they're not supposed to, but yet they do it in a dignified manner, and they do it at work session, and they iron out their concerns and questions, and when they come to the table, they're in agreement, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that your job entails, and a lot of people I don't think really know, is filing the records, right? To keep, does that fall under the Records Act? I can't,
The Public
okay.
Information Act.
Public Information.
Yep.
Yes.
So you have to, it's very important that these records are kept exactly like they're supposed
That
to
is
be.
correct.
And then filed for the proper authorities.
Yes, that's
So
correct.
talk a little bit about that, because people think you can come into a city, and I think that's what you're alluding to, just kind of running roughshod and doing whatever they want to do without things being filed properly or records kept properly. That's what you do, and that's what he touts you for, is she keeps us out of jail. She keeps our city out of trouble. Talk a little bit about that responsibility, and then just kind of how you manage that.
Okay, yeah, I'm required to attend the council meetings and any other meeting that the council and mayor have a quorum. But it is the clerk's responsibility to keep accurate minutes of the council meeting. So when a council meetings are finished, the next day I try to compile the minutes as soon as possible while they're still fresh on my mind. And so it is important to get the vote correct, to state what the action actually happened, not what was necessarily discussed, but what actually was action taken, voted on by the council. And with that, I do finish those minutes. I share them with the mayor and council in City Hall to make sure they're accurate and to let me know if there's any cancellations or corrections, deletions, or additions, and they're good about correcting those and getting that back to me. So yes, it's very important that those minutes reflect the action taken. Sometimes the council or the audience may get some discussion on a particular matter, and from a clerk's standpoint, that should just read discussion followed. I should not verbatim minutes. That is a huge discouragement in the clerk world. Okay, it's a big no-no. But anyway, we just put discussion followed if there's some discussion for that particular item.
You know, before social media or recording devices in city council meetings, you really had to pay attention as far as making sure the ordinances that were passed are exactly verbatim. Right. I think you can probably go back now and look, but isn't that pretty important to make sure? Because I mean, if one word could change an ordinance, right?
That's true, and that's where the city clerk comes in and puts that before our city attorney to make sure that we're passing is correct, and he's good with that before we bring it to the council.
I think that's another good point, is that Beth is the person that kind of elevates those things to the city attorney's position. You know, in most cases, I'll carry something to her. We discuss almost all of the business that goes on inside the city, and she's that one person that has this absolute allowance in our meeting to say that is not correct, that's not right, and you're going to have to do it this way or that way. We even had a situation maybe a week or so ago where Beth felt like I was going into something that would end up being an executive session, and she put a check. I mean, she checked me. And I actually said this is something that we had discussed, and we were able to work that out. But she doesn't sit there and just go along with what's going on. You know, it's her job to say, Mayor, you can't talk about that now, or we can't discuss that. And you know, if we're in the hallway, and you know, there's no chance that you're not with a quorum of council members somewhere at a restaurant. When we go to DC, I mean, we've got everybody with us, and you know, and there's this idea that we can go up there, sit down at a table, and begin to deliberate. I can just tell you that of our council members, at some point at every one of our dinners, somebody will say, we've got a quorum here. And that means that's not a, hey, y'all need to shut up or whatever. It's just, we don't need to discuss anything that's going to become official city business at this table. And believe it or not, that actually happens, that's refreshing to know that we have that much integrity on that council.
Man, it's so funny. I could picture it now. They're in DC, nice restaurant.
Yeah.
They start talking, and Beth Lee shows up like the waitress. You guys got to shut up. You can't do this. Right?
Well,
I mean, she's
they know better.
That's right.
That's right. We do know better, and it's one of the things that I believe that it helps so much having a seasoned clerk. You know, we didn't come in and start the whole replacement thing. You know, and I didn't replace my secretary. I'd never had one before. Who was I going to bring? I don't think I had a volunteer. And so, you know, Beth actually called me and said, Joe, you've got to come up here and make a decision on your secretary. I was like, what's the decision? And it was, you know, she needs to know if she's got a job or not. I had no idea, you know, because Beth did come with Terry John.
Yeah.
And so that, you know, it was a different time, different situation. But, you know, and so I just turned around in the middle. I can tell you right where I was. I turned around in the middle of the road and went back, walked in and asked Karen Frost. I said, Karen, you know, are you work for the city or do you work for the mayor? And she said, I work for the city. I said, well, let's just kind of leave it that way. And that it
That's
was really
choice,
that
good choice.
nonchalant. Yeah, it worked out in my favor for sure. And, you know, so I think that's another one of those things that her carrying the history of the city. You know, I say that about Beth. I say that a lot about, you know, Cindy Posey, she knows everybody in the country, and everybody. And I say that a lot about Anita Bedwell. You know, Anita
sure.
Bedwell carries the history of the council in the city on her shoulders, and with that, it's something that I can go back to and reference off of. And they're people that help me a lot.
You want to read that? Go ahead, Miss Lee.
Secretary's position, I'll just add this right quick, was added when Mayor Sue was in office, that the secretary was put into place to serve at the pleasure of the mayor. And it's still that, but you've got a great one right there with Karen.
Let's be
doubt about
fair.
it.
We all serve at the pleasure of the mayor.
That's a fact.
Let's be. Yeah, the one from the Rainbow City Journal.
Yeah.
All right. How about in 2020 to avoid low voter turnout? I remember Mr. Ramsey organizing a political event at the football field, and it was a great turnout. It seemed to be a great idea for future elections. Does the city or Mr. Ramsey plan on hosting another large event this year?
I will say this. I do believe that could have been a pivotal point in my election.
First time I heard you speak, actually.
Yeah, and it was, you know, you got to remember during that time we were in the midst of COVID, and we're trying to kind of get through that, and it was, you know, and everybody showed up to that thing kind of knowing who was going to vote for them. You know, we kind of knew what our numbers were going to be, but it was our chance for them to have a apples to apples comparison, you know, and in some cases you found some apples to orange, you know, comparison. But I do think that event was great. It's something that I'd like to see again. Personally, I think it's a great idea. It gives people an opportunity to walk up to that person and get a chance to ask a question or two. But the other thing that Beth, and it was her idea that I think is going to be very helpful in this upcoming election, is that we're gonna allow for a forum inside our city council meeting. And so if you want to come and announce, or if you want to come and speak to the council, ask a few questions, and you know, we'll have to limit time just because we don't want to belabor certain subjects, but I think it's and we do that now, but we want to bring people in and give them a chance to say that they want to be, and I'll say it every time, that they want to be a part of our winning team, because we do have a winning team right now.
Great. One of the things that I remember about that is my mom and my stepdad, my parents came home from that event, and they said, well, we know who we're voting for, and they got to meet you and talk to you, Rick and Sandra, and they said he didn't answer things the way we thought he would. He was very straightforward, and there's one thing about Sandra Gott Neal and Rick Neal is you answer things straightforward, and they love that. So you did win those two. I don't know if you thought you were going to get those two, but
I
100%.
that's true.
Yeah,
I went there
100%.
thinking that if I can just hold on to what I have, and then they asked who wanted to speak first, and Terry John, you know, I said that would be up to the mayor, and the mayor took the first spot, and then he spoke, and I thought, man, I had me a little 3 points and a prayer made up, and I just took the card, folded it. I was sitting next to Jameson Jenkins, and I put it in my back pocket, and I thought, you know, I need to speak from the heart here. You know, this is my chance to tell people that I can do this, and I know how to do this, and that I think I won a few votes that day.
Sure you did.
100% you did.
You did,
100%.
for a fact.
Let's
Was
see.
it a Philip Ellen prepared sermon that you had from years
I
back?
kind of went, I just pulled it out. You know, it's on an old yellow card.
Right. It works. But you had to scratch out the word offering on there.
Right, yeah. Took tithe off.
Claire Jenkins says, "Hi Beth, you look fabulous."
Oh, Claire, aren't you sweet? I love Claire.
Yeah, she's
The first lady said that was a great event. So that's good stuff.
first lady.
The first
Yeah.
lady.
First lady needs to get to work.
She is. She's minding her own business right now. You leave her alone.
She's multitasking.
That's right.
She is.
Cody Lassiter says the goat is right there. And I would imagine
He's not talking about.
He's
not
talking
talking
about
about
Beth
Joe.
Lee.
He's
He's
not
not talking
talking
about
about.
Thank you, Cody.
Hey, so let's if we can go down this path, since we're talking an election, it's not easy to put on an election. Kind of go through some of the process, and I'm sure there's sleepless nights.
There was in 2020.
Yeah.
Yes. So we have to appoint our poll workers. Okay, they're very critical in this election or any election. So we do that appointment, and we prepare we receive the ballots from ES&S. They come in on a pallet. to my office. At that same time, the absentee ballots will come, and anybody that would like to vote absentee can come and do that in my office. They do have to fill out an absentee application, and along with that, they will have to bring their or submit their driver's license with that. So they may come and pick this application up and take it away, or they can fill it out right there in my office. When that is completed and I make a copy of their driver's license, I'll issue them an absentee ballot. So they can fill that out. It's all secret. They fold it up, they put it in 2 secrecy envelopes, so it's very it's all held with integrity, and it is counted the day of the election.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's a long day for these poll workers.
Sure.
It's 6 o'clock to about 8 o'clock or later that day. They are paid for that. We do have to put extensive training in place before the election, and I do that, and I will help my sister cities along with that too. But this is my second election, and I'm excited about it in a way, and excited I'm not, but it seems like 5 years got here quick.
We got here fast.
Gosh. So we'll tally the numbers on the 26th of August, and I'll present those numbers in the mall area of the community center, and we'll have an election.
When will all of the candidates be made official, as far as what's the last day, and then when will the announcement come that this is who's running for XYZ?
Again, our qualifying is June the 10th through the June 24th. On June 24th, my office will have to, by law, will have to stay open to 5 o'clock. Normally, our office hours are 8 to 4. But on the 24th, the last day of qualifying, it does have to be open until 5. At that time, that will be the last that'll be the last hurrah of who wants to come in and qualify. So I'll update that on our website daily as to who qualifies. I'll keep that updated. We have an election tab on our website, so
Heck yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yours is very easy to find. We have looked at a few other municipalities.
Yeah.
Not so easy.
Sometimes there's
They'll
some of
hide that
these
thing out.
some of these cities you can't even find their city page.
It's true. You're right. We've been looking.
But I'm looking forward to this election not having a pandemic in
Oh, sure.
That was hard.
Well, I think that I think we need to kind of nudge her in the direction of the fact that she's Beth's one of the few, and I don't know of another in the state of Alabama that's had a one vote a tally, and I think she needs to talk a little bit about
Absolutely.
that, because I watched her literally take that day by day and get to the end to find out that she was as good at her job as we all thought she
Yes. Before you do that, the first lady said, "I can multitask. Joe can't."
That's right.
That's a fact now. I can't text and
I
talk
love it, Rachel.
at the same time.
Was 2020 it was your first election?
It was.
And it was a one vote election.
Good gracious.
Wow. Yeah, speak to that.
That
Wow.
night, when we started tallying the tapes from the machines, I had 2 other people with me with calculators, just to make sure we were all had the same numbers. And then it was in the council place number 1 that when I tallied the numbers, I looked at it and I tallied them again and I tallied them again, and it was 1 vote difference. And I don't know what I said after that. It was
You don't want to
Yeah,
say
yeah,
what you
well,
said.
yeah.
I think I blacked out. I thought, oh no. But yeah, we all verified we had the same number. So I went out in the mall area and reported those numbers. I reported the mayor's office election last. But yeah, and I knew it was going to run into follow up on that, and it did. I ended up having a contested election, but before that, we canvassed the election the week after, the Tuesday after the election at 12 noon. That is by law that we have to do that. And what that means by canvassing is that the provisional votes that were cast on election day, those provisional ballots are taken to the Board of Registrars. They determine if that provisional ballot will count on canvassing day. And I may be going down a rabbit hole here, but Those that are not canvassed, there is a reason that they're not canvassed, and it could be that they did not register to vote in time before
I
the
see.
cutoff.
Sure.
They may have not have been in the corporate city limits, and they make that determination. So when we canvass the week later, those votes are given to me, and I open those ballots in an open meeting. So we did that in 2020, and again, it was one vote difference.
Wow.
It was exactly one vote difference. So there is a cutoff where the any candidate can contest an election, and it was contested. Then it was several months later that the circuit court made a judgment on that, and we went to court, and there were certain ballots that the judge ordered to be open, and those ballots were opened through my shaking hands. I was scared to death. Because my name was on that election.
Sure.
You know, it was my first election, and I knew I had followed the law. I knew I'd done everything by the book. But yet it's still nerve-wracking when you go to court, you know, because you never know how it's going to end up. But it ended up being a 2-vote difference, with the incumbent still having the 2-vote lead. It was at that time later that it went to the Alabama Supreme Court. So with that being said, that the incumbent could not take office until it was settled at the Supreme Court. So at the end, the Supreme Court upheld the ruling of the circuit court, and at that point, which was probably 14 months later, the person was able to take office. So that was a trying time, a lot of sleepless nights.
Sure.
And I think that nailed down Beth Lee as being one of the premier city clerks. You just don't see that happen. You know, everybody says every vote counts. We
It
can
does.
prove it
That's
in,
right.
in
Sure.
Rainbow
It
City
does.
that every vote
And
counts.
we'd like to encourage everybody to please get out and vote.
Yes.
That is your God-given right.
That's right.
It's a fun time in there too.
It is a
You
good
see so
time.
many
Yes.
people. It really
Yes.
is. I enjoy it.
And I would like to add also
Yeah.
that viewers can go online now and look to see if they're registered, where they're scheduled to vote. And I would like to give that website. It's myinfo.alabamavotes.gov. You can go to that website. It's administered by the Secretary of State. Go there and plug your name and your last name and your birth date, and you can see if you're an active or inactive voter. If you're an inactive voter, you can come to my office, or you can do it the day of the election and fill out a voter update form. And we want to get the updated information. So if you see on that myinfo.alabamavotes.gov that that's not your correct address, let's get that changed now so we get the records up to date.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
A lot of good information on the Rainbow City website too.
Yes.
And it's so easy to navigate.
Yep.
Right.
It is a good looking website.
Thank you.
Did you see where Mayor Larry Means copied y'all's website?
To the T.
And it was good on you.
It
Bob.
was.
Yeah,
You better
that's
know.
good.
I see
It
you.
looks
Yeah.
great. They did a great job, by the way.
Yeah,
It looks
Larry's
really
got a
good.
great website. I think that's one of the things that when we go to the league that they harp on continuously is how to market your city, you know, and I think that's and market it for what it is. And you know, Larry and them do a great job. Chris Hare does a great job with the City of
yeah, yeah.
Patriotism, you know, and I think these cities around here are really starting to catch on, and I think it's because they've got leadership that's putting them in a place to be successful.
But great leadership is what Henry Blackaby said.
Yeah.
Find out what God's doing
Yeah.
and join him there.
That's right.
And these guys are doing the very
It
same
works.
thing. You're leading the charge whether you think you are or not. They're following.
Interesting question. I think it's a moment to talk about it. A lot of unbelievable good first responders here in Rainbow City, right? You guys lead the way. You've been one your whole life. Any update I'm sure we're helping with the situation at the Falls, the missing lady. Can you talk about any of that and how all the cities kind of everything is out the window? We're here to help.
That's right, and a lot of times what you'll do is you'll end up backfilling their fire stations and taking on some of their territory.
Okay.
Our fire chief immediately he always contacts me when there's an event in our city, especially. But he'll contact me when there's going to be an opportunity for us to help our neighboring cities. And he did that the night of the event, and told me, we may be backfilling some of these states, maybe going into some territories. We may end up sending our Swiftwater team up. We have the only put together Swiftwater team in Etowah County, and and I immediately, having been the leader of a technical rescue team in Gadsden, I told him I must make sure our people don't get in that water. That water is it's a killing machine.
Sure.
And we know that, and of course our heart goes out to this family, because now they're in a waiting game. And that waiting game, as the clock ticks, it becomes more and more dismal for them, and we have to be sensitive to who they are and what's going on with those folks. But at the same time, there's a vigil that goes on in first response that they don't stop until it's over. Right. And that always has to be at some cost, and that cost is fatigue and families that miss their opportunity on Memorial Day. Those firefighters with the city of Gadsden and a couple of other county assets, I think Morgan County or one of the other, maybe DeKalb County, came in to help. Those people are giving up their time so that they can go up and try to soften the blow for what seems to be inevitable at this point. And so you're trying to gather information and understanding continuously, and those events are just so long and extrapolated. They create a weary nature, and at some point it almost seems like we've given up, but we haven't given up. We never do until it comes to closure.
You made a statement. My son went up there. He was on duty and he had to go up and work. But what was so cool was to get a text later from him and said, "Dad," he said, "we had guys, including me, that went home, changed, and went back up." Mm-hmm. He said, "There's guys and ladies out there that are off duty that are just back up here looking." And I thought that was the coolest thing. And it's not just Gadsden; it was Rainbow City, it was Attala. That's just the cool thing about our county. Yeah.
Well, I think it's the thing that we found out during rendering is that, we're the smallest landmass county. That creates a connectivity that most people don't understand, especially like Baldwin County, Mobile County. They're so long and stretched out, there are people down there that'll never get into the other person's city. Mm-hmm. Here, we had a storm come through maybe yesterday that, I was on my boat, looked at my phone, and there's Scott Reeves. And he's calling me to say, "Hey, you guys okay? Everything good?" And we had a power line that had been breached by some fallen trees. And I said, "We're good, Scott." And he said, "Call me if you need me." And it's that quick. It's that, that ability to know that you've got assets that are making themselves available to you. And that's what our chief did as soon as this event started, is he said, "Hey, this is what we've got. Tell us what you need." And then there's no thought of how we're going to get that done. It's just, we're going to respond.
And Scott meant it.
Yes.
He did.
Not a
Every
fake call,
time.
you know what I'm saying?
He'd come by himself.
Yeah,
that's
that
right.
big old dude.
Yeah, he'll show up with a chainsaw.
Yeah, he's scared. I may need him in my house.
That's the reason Jerry and I wear our ball caps whenever we want to, no matter who the guest is.
Yeah.
Because of Mayor.
Yeah.
Mayor Hope.
He will.
Mayor Reeves. He worries. He came in. It was back when we first started doing some political stuff, and we're like, we need to get our hair right.
Yeah.
Mayor Reeves comes in, that ball cap on.
Yes,
we're like, man.
And I never felt more comfortable.
That's right.
I can get
That's
behind
right.
that mayor. I can get behind him. Hey, so Jerry Ramsey wants to say, Beth, he says, "Thank you so much for making yourself available and approachable." Especially with new people that they're going to run or don't know. It's a nervous kind of issue.
Well, my office is available to anyone. I will help anyone that has issues, will ask questions, and if I don't know, I'll find out. So we're here to help.
And Joey wants to talk to you and thank you and Andy Hughes about the community market. Mm-hmm. What a success that's been.
No kidding. Andy Hughes, we had a little community market. We had 2 or 3 vendors that would come out I think we had, was it Friday that we used to do it? They would come out, once a week and do that. And Andy came to me and he said, I really think I can build this market up. And he's our revenue officer. And so I said, well, just, he said, I'm kind of caught up on my work. If I could take some time, I think it'd be an opportunity for us to kind of put our city out there and show that we still have that hometown, homegrown attitude. And he has, and boy, has he shown out. I mean, Andy and his wife, are just totally involved in our, and his parents are totally involved in our community, and it's just a good thing. You know, we're having hundreds of people 3 days a week. He did a pop-up Mother's Day market.
That was cool.
It rained it out in the parking lot. He moved it into our council meeting, council room, and every one of our vendors sold out. Wow. And so, you know, that's what we're trying to encourage people to come out and be a part of a community. But at the same time, we're helping these vendors to be able to keep their grind going,
That's right.
and keep making their product, and we hope that eventually some of them will end up going into a brick and mortar location, and we're seeing that already.
That's the catalyst for that.
It is.
I mean, that's
you got to
a
start somewhere,
Yeah.
you know, and
That's a forward-thinking city,
yep.
right?
Last time I stopped in there, only thing I was able to purchase was a Crow coffee.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
And
to
I'm
purchase.
just running into people you know,
Yeah.
right? I'm just end up talking to people. Next thing you know, hey, we're closing it down.
Yeah.
I ain't even looked yet, but my
If
coffee.
you don't
was
if
good.
you don't get that cinnamon roll from that lady that does the treats, and if you don't get the chocolate chip cookie
got
from Andy's
nothing.
wife, I'm sorry, you've sold yourself.
I got a coffee. That's all I got.
Yeah.
So he puts up sign. He's out there putting up the signs.
does.
I see him all the
He's-
time, putting it down. And
So now, I want to know, Andy, do you still go to the yard sales periodically on Saturdays?
Yes.
Do you still do that?
Yes, he does. He does.
I remember when my father-in-law died, and we were doing kind of an estate sale before we got my mother-in-law moved to a retirement village, and he came in and he had his little badge on, and of course my wife, of course, she's very ordered. She's like Beth Lee. She's everything's structured, everything's by the book. She goes, "Oh no. Do they have laws here in Rainbow City about yard sales?" I said, "Well, they do, but
she thought she was going to jail.
we're fine.
We're okay.
We're good." And so he came up and he introduced himself, and he's looking, and
He's yard sales.
he's got a handful of things, but he's still there for the city. He is a great person.
Yeah, I think that's the
It's a
thing
home
about
run.
Andy is that he has this heart for people. That is, it's something that we didn't want wasted, you know, just as, you know, everybody likes to talk about how bad the revenue officer is in a city and the building official, you know, and those guys catch a lot. They catch more than most of the police officers do. But the truth is we've got Andy and Joel, and there's no doubt there are times when they're telling you tough things.
Sure.
Yeah.
But they know how to deliver that, and they deliver that with caring and actually with love. And I think that's the difference between the way we're doing business and some of our other cities.
Yeah, I thought that was a great thing too. He was more concerned about my father-in-law dying than he was anything else, and it was just really cool. I love it. Never forget that.
Yeah.
So. All right, Jerry White, what else you got, buddy?
No, let's. We have to ask you about some gossip.
Uh-oh. She don't get into gossip.
About what?
I don't know. You tell me. That's what I'm waiting for. I need gossip. I got shows to do, Beth Lee. I need some stuff.
Well, I'll answer for her, and then she can pick
Okay.
up from there. There's no doubt about it. Beth Lee knows what's going on, and I'm going to tell you that it's rare that I bring something up, and she and I do have to have our sessions where we have to kind of clear the air and make sure we're both
Same
hearing the
page.
same
Yeah.
thing and on the same page, and it's rare that she doesn't know what's going on. So now she can take up and answer your
Gotta
question.
have some good stuff.
Oh.
She's pleading the fifth.
She is literally.
But I think
I'm
Done.
ready to say.
She's over.
Yep.
She's over.
I think I would say this about Beth, and you know, I brag on my associates, no doubt, but you know, I see her as my counterpart, you know, in city government, because she's totally different from what we do, and her being able to stay apart and segregated is critical for us.
Sure.
And sometimes she does get pulled into the city's business, so to speak, which is the politics of it, and it's really quite unfair. But the one thing that I know is that I can get pure honesty from her office and from her, and that she'll tell me this is how it can be, and you know, and I can carry a question, and if she doesn't have the answer, she'll bring me back an answer.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that's the old Army rule of if I don't know, I'll find out. She still carries that same tradition forward, and I think that's what makes a good city clerk.
You got that right. That's refreshing too, because a lot of people try to fake it.
Oh, yeah.
And until
Yeah,
you
they'll
know,
just tell you some old bull crap.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't need that. I tell
no.
people I'm ugly on the street, but I'm pretty in prison. So I'm not
You're
about to go
8.5,
there.
Joe. You're 8.5.
8.5.
Great
His commissary
question.
account look good. doesn't it? Yeah.
Oh, hold my pocket, Joe. Sorry. Here's I'm gonna end with this question. Who's your favorite city council person?
Oh, come on.
Hey, I
He
just
asks
asked
us
the
every
question.
time.
asking
Where'd
this.
that come from?
I just
He
asked the
asks us
question.
every time.
Whoever put that on there is the one that wants to be known.
That's true.
And I know exactly who put it on there.
Yes, sir. You sure do.
You probably do.
Probably right. Probably right.
They're all great guys and girls. They are.
And he
they
just,
really
but
are.
he forgets to wear his tie sometimes.
Wow. Okay.
And he didn't even mention anything about you parking this time, Joe. But it's coming.
I did.
Parking?
Did we
He's
ride
just
through?
a
Was it 2
child.
weeks ago we rode through?
You
Just
yeah.
to see.
Did I do good?
You did well.
You
Okay.
I was like,
I mean, you were
I'll
close
get
to the
better.
line.
you're close, but you're in it.
But you're in
Right.
it.
As long as I'm inside those two white lines, I think it's
Just
good.
don't park
You
close
talking
up.
about hitting that deer?
Yeah, we did.
We did hear about that.
Okay, good.
No, they asked me because
Yeah.
it had gotten here
Yeah.
before I got
Rest
here.
in peace, dear.
Sorry about that.
So how do vendor? This is a great question, real
is.
quick before we go. How do vendors register or set up for the July 4th drone event, or is the event full, or are there any spots open?
There are spots and opportunity, both in food and in the market. We're going to do a market.
Oh, heck
It's
yeah.
our 75th anniversary.
It
It's
is.
our diamond jubilee anniversary for the city, and that our drone event is going to be surrounded and kind of themed around that. You'll see that in the drone show. But we decided, Andy again got kicked in with Philip. And Philip Hollingsworth at our Parks and Rec and Andy they're going to run starting about a couple hours earlier. We're going to have a market and we're going to have a food court. And so we want people to come out and spend the day. We're going to have a couple of musical acts and have a stage in the whole 9 yards and get people ready to just kind of not only celebrate moving into the week of 4th of July and our Independence Day, but also to celebrate the 75th anniversary of this city. Cool. This city is a kid. I mean, it's so new and so young, and this is our chance to really be able to say, hey, we made it.
Yeah.
This city is a viable, huge part of this region. It stands to be the largest city in this region, you know, probably in y'all's lifetime. Maybe not mine.
Oh, come on. Your lifetime's far better than our
When he said Jubilee, I went straight covered dish.
Yeah, that's you like.
We need a covered
You went
dish.
Jubilee. I went
need some casserole.
I went White's
Yeah.
Chapel.
You did with White's
I was
Chapel.
thinking Alabama
right.
Jubilee is
That's
what I was
right.
thinking.
It could be some of that.
Somebody says, who was that says, will there be a Kapow logo in the drone show? I don't know.
Hey, that's a great
I don't know.
idea.
We can't even get it on the marquee outside.